Fiat 500 have taken over Europe. They're small, cheap, funky, fun to drive. You see them everywhere. So, of course, it's a perfect model for Fiat to make electric. This is the Fiat 500e. This is their first electric car. Yes, before I get any comments, I know they've made an electric car before. There has been a Fiat 500e before, but just in a couple of states in America, and it's all thanks to California's zero emissions rule. So it was a compliance car. It was just a normal Fiat 500 with a powertrain inside it. This is a proper ground-up EV. Fiat have made it electric from the start, so that should mean it's really good, right? So after 1,000 miles of ownership, this is my review of the Fiat 500e. So let's look at the design. This is the third generation of Fiat 500, and I think it's the best. If you compare this to the combustion engine version of the Fiat 500, it doesn't look as good. So what's this one got that's different? Well, firstly, you've got these really cool eyebrows on the lights. I love that. And this kind of, it's almost like blusher down here. So it's got a real personality, this face. And in fact, the car itself has a personality as well. So I think they've knocked it out of the park. The cool thing is that this design is only going to be on the electric 500. So none of the other 500s are going to have this design. So that's really cool of Fiat as well. It's a car that looks beautiful from any angle, I think. Really funky alloy wheels in the La Prima spec. The rest of it is classic Fiat 500. I mean, if you've seen a Fiat 500, this looks familiar, but it also looks a bit different. It looks a bit cooler. Like the rest of the car, the back is obviously instantly recognisable as a Fiat 500. And there's not that much to talk about, and to be honest, I don't know the kind of the details between each one, but what you will notice is we have a little Fiat 500e logo there, which is of course cool, and it all looks nice and beautiful and it's classy. It's a brilliant design. God, I love this design. I think it's fantastic. I've put the front seat to my driving position. I'm 5'10", 5'11", somewhere in between that, and I just can't fit. I mean, I wouldn't be able to fit in here in the back. It would be absolutely ridiculous. And I've been driving this around quite a lot with the family in the back, so I would have to move my seat forward to a more, well, less comfortable driving position for me, but more comfortable for them in the back. So yeah, it's when I've been driving, I have been driving like that a little bit more, so my wife can get in the back comfortably. So that's worth bearing in mind. It's just not practical in the back, it's tiny. On top of that, these back windows don't open, so that's a bit of a shame, really. Other than that, I mean, it's comfortable enough. It's comfortable enough. But what is annoying is that the back seat belts, they don't move all the way up. So actually trying to put the seat belt buckle in there is very difficult, and it drives my daughter mad. But other than that, there's not much to say really. There's nothing else in the back. What is nice, of course, is the sunroof. Makes it feel a little more open than perhaps it would otherwise, but it's still tiny. Here we have the boot of the Fiat 500e, of course. So let's open it. The latch is here. And when you first get it, you'll notice, if you get the La Prima spec anyway, you'll notice you get this easy wall box, which is a 3 kilowatt wall box that you can apparently just attach yourself, which I haven't done because I don't need one. But it's nice that they give it anyway. And it can be upgraded to a 7 kilowatt one apparently, but that involves getting an electrician, obviously. You also get a very fancy bag there with your charging cable in there and some gloves, which is nice. If you get the La Prima, it's got 11 kilowatts, 11 kilowatt charging, AC charging. So that's quite a thick, chunky cable that you get for that. Let's do some measurements. So you've got a depth of about 54 centimetres and a width of about 100 centimetres, and a height up to the parcel shelf of 54 centimetres. Now there is a false floor that comes up here as well. And in there you have you can see I've not used it yet, but that's the granny cable. That's the one that you can use on your domestic socket if you don't use the easy wall box I just showed you. So it's good that you get that, and of course tow hook and all the other bits you would expect, like a tyre inflating thing. I could get a bit more space if I take this out, but you don't get a massive amount. So frankly, I'm not going to bother. There's not much else to talk about in the boot, but it is good that you've got a little 12-volt socket there. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so we'll measure it with the seats down. First of all, make sure these are at their lowest possible setting, otherwise it won't go down too far because it'll interfere with the front seats. First of all, we'll take out the smallest parcel shelf in the world. Then you push these little buttons and then the seats go down. And you'll see it's not even close to being flat, but you know, what do you expect? So there is quite a lip. Let's have a look. You've got about, I would say about a 12 centimetre lip there. Now I've got my front seat set to my driving position. No, it's not. Sorry, I think the passenger seat is set to my driving position. So let's go and measure from there. We've got about 127 centimetres. Obviously measurements like that are pretty useless, aren't they, in the real world? So let's see what it's like with some actual luggage in there. So first of all, we've got the big, now I'm not normally this well coordinated, but we've got here the big bag. Now in fact I'll show you with the seats up. So even with the parcel shelf on there, you would fit one big bag in there. And there is just about enough to stick a few more small bags. You wouldn't be able to put it horizontally, it would have to be vertically like that. Whereas if you've got carry-on luggage, you'd have enough room to stick another bag there, so it's good enough really for 3 carry-on bags. It's not too bad really, with the seats down there's quite a lot of room. It's just not a very flat surface. If it's just 2 of you going away somewhere, there's actually quite a lot of room. Some people say there's not enough room for any shopping in the back, but actually I go shopping in this all the time. It's fine for like 5 bags, absolutely full of shopping easily, without even putting anything on top of them, so I think it's fine. And it is nice that they've provided this spaghetti holder just up here, because it's really not good for much else. Ridiculous. Your charging socket is in here, and it's CCS. You've got 11 kilowatts of AC charging for this La Prima model. If you go to a rapid charge, you get 85 kilowatts, so that's really good. The lowest model they do is I think it's the Icon. That only gets 50 kilowatts of rapid charging, and it also has a smaller battery. You have lights on the side telling you how charged you are, and in fact you can also turn off the charging if you want to, using this little button here as well. I've charged at rapids actually quite a lot with this, and it's been really quick, actually pretty much every time, really fast. Unfortunately it doesn't tell you the charging speed in the car, which is really annoying, and some chargers don't tell you the charging speed either, but Fiat's claim of 85 kilowatts so far during summer it's been pretty accurate, I think. I think it's really nice in the front. It feels quite solid, all the materials seem quite nice. You've got this weird texture here. It's almost like a burlap bag kind of texture, but in sort of a plastic, hard plastic. That feels nice. The screen is quite solid. Everything feels quite solid. Most of this is scratchy plastic. This literally really does scratch this this plastic here. I mean, on the first day I got it, in fact, I noticed that as I was putting stuff in it, it was scratching a bit, but the scratches seem to rub out, so it's a bit strange. The steering wheel has quite a lot of adjustment in it, so that's really good. The seats, you've got your back and forward with the normal kind of, it's not electric or anything, seat, sadly. You can pump yourself up. Oh, I'm still going. still going? Okay, so that's a really high driving position. Actually, I feel like I'm going to go through the sunroof. So in fact, we have it set to almost the bottom. The visibility is not good with this rear view mirror. Got to be honest. It's like the DS. You know, you have quite a small opening here. Really, it's not ideal. Something drives my wife mad. There's no vanity mirror there. There is on the other side. And it's almost like they forgot to switch it round when they changed it from left-hand drive to right-hand drive. You open the door by using the button here. There is a kind of emergency release down there as well. I'm not sure. Maybe if the 12-volt battery is dead or something, maybe you have to use it. And then you've got adjustments for your wing mirrors, things like that there, and for the windows there, of course. You've got a really deep cubby hole here. There's a covering that covers it up. That's really deep with a USB there, USB-A, and you've got the 12-volt socket in there. You've also got this little cup holder thing there, which just flips down, which is quite nice, I think. And you've also got, under the armrest, you've also got quite a lot of storage, which I just have masks and RFID cards. But there's quite a lot of storage in there, so it feels quite good. And it's not a flat floor, but it's, you know, pretty low. You've got your parking brake here, and you've got volume and mute here for your radio, and you've got E-mode, it calls it, and that's just your driving mode, so you can change it from Sherpa, which is like the eco, really eco mode, to try and get you home if you're low on battery. You've got Sherpa normal and range mode. Range mode is one pedal driving, so you change that with your E-mode thing here. The seats are pretty comfortable, but they're quite firm. These are the eco leather, the vegan eco leather. You can get cloth as well. In the passenger seat, I noticed there's an ISOFIX, so that means you've actually got 3 ISOFIX, so that's really good. Steering wheel feels really nice. You've got little nodules on the back for adjusting your volume and your tracks. On here you've got your, on the left you've got your lights, and you've also got a button for turning off lane keep assist. On the left of the steering wheel you have buttons to navigate through the menus. You've got the kind of the Siri button, or the voice command button I should say, and buttons for stopping and starting phone calls as well. On the right you have buttons for cruise control. You have a blind that you can cover up the sunroof, so that's nice. On the top here you've got lights and SOS button, which I think is a legal requirement now in Europe. An SOS button and assist, and then fog lights and things on the right. I really don't like the gear selection thing. I think it works much better in other cars where it feels more fluid, like the i3 you've got it like up here somewhere, haven't you? E-Nero's down there, so is the Leaf. So I don't like that. It just feels a bit clunky and pretty ugly looking plasticky buttons, these. All these buttons here are for your air conditioning and things like that, and they're okay, but of course they all look kind of roughly the same, so you do have to take your eyes off the road a little bit to do anything with those, which isn't really ideal. But it's fine, you kind of get used to it. It's up for hotter, down for cooler on the far left, and then the fan speed on the far right. So that's okay. I do find it quite noisy, the air conditioning. On a really hot day, if you put the air conditioning on full pelt, it's like, it really sounds like a rocket. It sounds like the car's going to take off. On the La Prima model, there's also wireless charging. So if you put your phone there, you'll see a little light there if it's working, and you also do get wireless CarPlay and Android Auto as well. Something interesting I've noticed is that when you turn on the car, and so you can turn it on without using the brake pedal, but then you have to do it again with the brake pedal to actually turn it on, ready to drive it. Don't know if it's using the 12-volt battery. I mean, that was one of my things with the e-Nero, is that the 12-volt battery would start to get depleted quite quickly if you just sat in it and just played around with the radio and stuff. But it doesn't seem to give me a warning, which makes me think that it's not using it. So that's something I would love to know. One thing that is really annoying actually is if you have big feet or you're wearing boots, then at least in the right-hand drive version of the 500e, your left leg or your left foot can't just sit there. I mean, most cars you would find that you just rest your leg somewhere, or rest your foot somewhere on the left, and you can't do that on here. So you have to kind of tuck it back a little bit. So it's a little bit inconvenient. I believe it doesn't happen in the left-hand drive version. It is just the right-hand drive. And this is probably quite common where there are differences between left-hand drive and right-hand drive. For instance, glove boxes can be really small for right-hand drive cars. Thankfully, that's not an issue in this one. In fact, let's do the profiterole test. The profiterole test. Will the profiteroles fit in the Fiat 500e glove box? Is it going to do it? Is it going to do it? Look at that. Look at that. Now, one of the best things about the car, I think, is the infotainment system. The infotainment system and the dash, I think, are brilliant. It gives you so much information, so many settings. I'm like really, really impressed. I'm really surprised, actually, because I wouldn't have expected it. So let's talk about that. So let's look at the dash, or binnacle, or whatever you're supposed to call it. At the moment, I'm on the trip meter. I tend to just drive along with this all the time because I find that I've got all the information I want on there, including the average consumption, which I like because I'm a bit geeky. So let's have a look what else. You've got driver assist mode, that just shows you your car and things like that when you're driving along. Especially with co-pilot, that's pretty good. Vehicle info, so you've got tyre pressure and the service interval, whatever music you're listening to, and that does include CarPlay or Android Auto, I guess. If you've got navigation on there, that will show. Stored messages, vehicle setup, display, you've got tutorial, dimmer, look at that. Ready to drive pop-up. I mean, you can configure everything, you see. Screen setter, bottom left. Temperature, time, date, compass, you see. Temperature. Okay, so you can configure everything in this. It's brilliant. Passenger airbag, you can turn on and off here without using the keys. That's nice. And then we got like the main. This is the main kind of dash that you can see. You've got eco at the top there, charge and power on the sides. It's really nice, really, really nice, clear display. I think very quick. What I was going to tell you is that this car is quite buggy. And this proves it because I've already connected AirPlay, and in fact I've already connected CarPlay, sorry, so that should be linked up. I don't know why it's not, and I've already added the phone and it's not showing there, so I don't know why. Anyway, you've got media, you've got sources, and you can choose all the different sources here. As you can see, there's loads of options all over the place. What's playing? Nothing at the moment. Balance, fade, equalizer, speed adjusted volume, radio off the door. I mean, there's options for everything. It's really impressive. On here we've got the climate control settings, and you can either do it on using the buttons or you can do it on here. And that's very nice and slick. So that's all really good, I think. Navigation. So let's just navigate to, let's see what's the nearest parking is. Bridge in Canterbury. Okay. It's pretty responsive. I think that's quite smooth. I've seen far, far worse, really, and this is really good, I think. If you want to just drive somewhere else, you would just click drive, and that's all good. But yeah, it's pretty nicely done, I think. I'm really impressed. If I go to here for phone, it should have my phone on there, but you know, it's not working because, as I said, it's a bit buggy. And here we've got vehicle. Let's go to electric vehicle. If we go to electric vehicle, for some reason you have to launch EV pages. I don't know why, but it does show you the power flow with consumption, all that sort of stuff, and charging schedules, which is fantastic. So I've got one set. Let me show you how we do that. Oops. So set schedule, set charge schedule. So it's got start stop times. You'll want to adjust this depending on your cheapest rate of electricity, of course. But you can see, I mean, it's all very clear, really easy to use. So I'm not going to save that, but I'm going to go to climate schedule just to show you that. So you can precondition, of course, as well when you're plugged in. So that's great. That means preconditioning just means that when you get into the car on a cold day, it'll be nice and warm. Or of course the opposite, of course, on a hot day. It just does it. It just makes sure that the car is nice when you get back into it. And charge setting. Don't really understand the point of this charging level. I think it probably adjusts the amps, but it's not clear. So when I got this, it was set to 3. I've got it on the highest. So I'm not sure what the point is there, but anyway, battery level 88%. Again, it shows you it's all very clear. And if I go to control screen off, I don't know why you need that. Settings. Now you've got so many settings on here. It's really impressive. Just on the display one, you've got display brightness, headlights on, headlights off. In other words, if you have your headlights on, how do you want the brightness of the screen, up or down, all that? You can just change all that. You've got different themes you can change. I'm not going to bother with that. Units, of course, for speed, distance, temperature, all the rest of it. My profile, because you can set profiles in this, although actually you can only set one profile at the moment. They haven't enabled the ability to add more profiles, unfortunately. But anyway, let's go to safety and driving assistance. You've got autonomous emergency brake control, all this sort of stuff. Lane sense. I mean, there's traffic sign recognition. Oops, turn that on. There's so many different options. It's really, really good. Sync time with GPS, of course, for the clock and date. That's great. Phone and Bluetooth. As I say, device manager. That should be selected on my iPhone. I don't know why it's not. Voice. So wake up word. It's got this Hey You Connect. There we go. I want to listen to music.
There's no media connected.
Okay. But anyway, I always use CarPlay generally when it's working, so I haven't tried that yet, but it's good to know it's there. Uconnect is like Fiat's. I didn't say Hey Uconnect, I just said Uconnect. Go away.
Cancelled.
Go away. Anyway, that's there if you want it. Navigation, you've got, oh good Lord, you've got so much stuff in here. Show, arrival time and distance, vehicle range. Now, one thing on the navigation is it's worth bearing in mind that it doesn't tell you where you have to charge. It will tell you you might need to charge somewhere, but it doesn't really even do that accurately. So, although it does have charges listed, it doesn't actually know what your battery percentage is going to be when you get there and things like that. So, don't rely on it. The camera, you've got the camera there, rain sensors, lights, brakes. Okay. Well, this is one thing, right? When you first get the car, it will beep the horn when you press the button, so you want to turn that off. Well, it's up to you, of course, but I think it was awful. And I'm far too English for that, because it just means that everyone looks around, especially if you're in a car park and it echoes everywhere. I recommend turning that off. Key off options, audio notification. Okay, look, there's too much here to go through. Radio setup, geolocation, software updates. Here's an interesting one. You can software download over Wi-Fi. This hasn't actually worked yet, or it's not done anything yet as far as I'm aware, but I might not know about it anyway. But I believe it updates small things like just the infotainment system, for instance. It might do updates for that. Any bigger updates, and you have to go to the dealer. System information, and then reset. I'm not going to press that, of course. But let's just go to profile. So here's my profile. And yes, you can't add another profile yet, but you will be able to. So, as you can see, there is a lot going on in this infotainment. It's actually a bit, arguably a bit complex, but it's also very, very good and feature-rich, which is nice. A good car app is essential these days. The Fiat one is actually pretty good, and they're updating it all the time, so that's great. I wouldn't say it's the quickest app in the world, but it's certainly better than the old Nissan Leaf one I had used to be. So you've got the number of miles it estimates you have there. You've got the battery percentage, of course. You can click on Find a Charge and it will find some charging stations, and then you can send it to your sat nav. It tells you vehicle health with like brakes and suspension, things like that. And you'll see it's going very slowly at the moment for some reason, but the owner's manual on there as well. You can lock and unlock the car, and you can also turn on the lights, which is quite cool if you're in a car park and you're wondering where your car is. You've also got a climate and charge schedule that you can set in here for, obviously you can see that mine is already set there, which I've set in the car, but you can do it in the app as well. And they are going to add a function to actually turn on the air conditioning from the app as well, so or preheat the car or whatever, so that will be added. And you can also see where your car is. If I scroll down, you can see locations down there. There's also valet mode, which is quite cool, which allows you to give it to someone without needing the key. And you've also got drive alerts, which is really good. So if you've got a child or something that's driving the car, you can set alerts if they're going outside a boundary, or if they've been out too long, or if they're going too fast. So that's really good if you let someone borrow your car. So it's pretty good. What I would like is logs. I would like it to give me logs about how my driving has been and where I've been and efficiency and all that sort of stuff. All the kind of geeky stuff. That's what I would like to see, but maybe they'll add that in the future. Okay, let's go for a drive then. Now, firstly, this is the pebble. This is your key. Don't put it anywhere near the charging pad. My sales guy told me to put it there, but people told me actually that's a really bad idea, and it says in the manual it's a bad idea. Your car could stop in the middle of the road while you're driving along with an error, so it will say key not detected or something like that. So don't put it in the charging pad. Frankly, put it anywhere else. So let's go for a nice little drive just around the country, and I'll talk to you about how it feels to drive it and all the rest of it. First, you've got the gear selection buttons down here.
Flaviana said, could you please get celery from the shop? Would you like to reply?
No. Into reverse. Oh no, press brake pedal and start button. I have to keep remembering that you've got to press more than once. You've got to press twice to get it going. In most EVs, I think you just press the brake pedal and press the on button, and then it's on completely and ready to drive. In this, you have to do it twice. So that's a little bit irritating. Anyway, right, into reverse. And off we go. You've got to listen out for some music now. Listen. Could you hear that? You may not have been able to hear that. That's a little bit of music from the Italian film Amarcord. And it starts up when you get to about 12 miles an hour or something. It's quite nice. There's lots of little touches like that in this car that give it a bit of personality, I think, which is lacking in a lot of cars, I think. So this car is front wheel drive. So now I'm driving behind a tractor and lots of hay, which isn't ideal really, because I would have told you how fast the car is and things like that. But anyway, it's fine. It gives me an opportunity to talk about driving and just the general feel in this car. So what I would say is that visibility in this is not great. The rear view mirror takes up quite a lot of room at the top. The rest of the car is fine, and what is really great is that the blind spots aren't an issue because it has blind spot monitoring. If you try to overtake or something like that and you've got someone coming and they're in your blind spot, then you get a beep and a little warning triangle, so that's really, really good. I love the sunroof. Obviously if you had the cabrio, that would be even cooler. That would have been nice. Even in the summer, English weather is not good enough to warrant a cabriolet, I think. But I suppose on the days that it is good weather, then you would really want it. Anyway, what you can do is you can specify the sunroof to be an electric one, and then obviously you can open it and then you kind of get the cabrio feeling, but that is £1,250 extra for that option. It's extremely fun to drive, that's the thing. So every time I get in this car I have a bit of a smile on my face, because it does have a little bit of a go-kart feel to it, especially as it's really quite nippy, especially at low speeds. It goes like a rocket. Okay, that's down to a stop with one pedal driving. Okay, let's go. And then 30. Okay. What's that? Yeah, about 3 seconds. Yeah. So it's a really nippy little car. And in fact, it's not perfect conditions because I think I was parked on a little piece of mud just then. So normally it feels a bit quicker, but it kind of gives you a little bit of a feeling in your belly, which is quite nice. It's generally on acceleration, it's slower than the Mini, I think. I will put the stats on the screen, but it's about 9 seconds to 62 miles an hour. As a nation, as a world perhaps, we tend to be getting larger and larger cars, so it's an absolute joy to drive something that's actually built for our roads. Because in America they have roads that are perfect for massive cars, but here we really don't. Well, at least not in Europe anyway. We have tiny roads. They're really not very usable, are they? So a little car like this is just perfect for them. And of course it's also perfect because it's such fun to drive this little car around. It's responsive, it zooms around, it's fast as well. And with one pedal driving and range mode, it makes it even more fun. But these roads I'm driving on at the moment, they're the kind of roads that I would be freaking out if I was... There we go. I mean, someone's just reversing there for some reason. Oh God, you see, it's a nightmare. This country's roads are a nightmare. There's the parking sensors. If I was driving a Tesla Model X, right then, which is a car that we used to want, I would be freaking out, you know. I would have had to have reversed all the way back up the road, back down the road, you know, just to let the car pass. So little cars like this are brilliant. So if I wanted to enable co-driver, that's Fiat's name for their level 2 autonomy. So it means it keeps you in your lane, it keeps you regulated with the car in front, and it's pretty good really. And again, you wouldn't really expect it in a car like this. But then I have to keep reminding myself, it's not a cheap car. So it's as simple as pressing the middle button then, and then pressing set to set your speed. And then you just lift off your pedal and it does the rest for you. And it's really good. It's a really relaxing way to drive. One issue I have with the infotainment system is that it's got loads of functionality. I mean, it's really good, but trying to use it when driving along, I find it a little bit fiddly because the press points are quite small. But generally, I mean, I use CarPlay most of the time anyway, and of course it does have CarPlay and Android Auto. But generally, I've never found myself using a car's sat-nav and the inbuilt sat-nav as much as I have this. So this car's, I think, got really good infotainment system. The turning circle is pretty fantastic. Couldn't quite do that in one turn, but not too bad. So I've been doing quite spirited driving really, and I've got 5.4 miles per kilowatt hour, and it's 90% battery, and that's telling me I've got 155 miles left on the range meter, the GOM as we call it. So I think it's a very efficient car, and it should be efficient really because it's a ground up EV. They started from scratch. They didn't just stick a powertrain in their old 500, which is really good. They've started from scratch. They've got a completely EV architecture. So how nice that Fiat have actually done that, and they've done a proper job with it, because other manufacturers don't tend to do that, especially ones that are as sniffy about EVs as Fiat were. You know, at least they've done a proper job on it. They just need to make the price cheaper. They need to bring the price down so everyone can drive these. Okay, we're back home. So, let me tell you what I think about it then. In conclusion, I love this car. I think it's a pleasure to drive. I smile every time. I smile like an idiot, really, every time I get in the car. So, I would really, really recommend it. But at the same time, it's worth considering that there are other cars around the same price that you could look at instead. So there is the Honda E and there is the Mini Electric. So do look at those as well. Some other people have said, they're thinking about either this or the BMW i3. Now, that's a weird one, I think, because they are quite different. I know my wife mentioned it in her video. The i3 is much bigger than this. That's the thing. It doesn't feel that much bigger externally, I would say. It's really well designed, the i3, but it is much bigger inside. And you have got the suicide doors, so it is much more practical than this being just a 3-door. That's one of the issues with this car. So it's not, it's not a practical family car, is it? The Honda E at least does have the doors in the back. It is also worth considering the Zoe, because the Zoe is a car that is ridiculously good value for money. And so do consider that. And of course it's bigger. I would say it's a more practical family car, really. I would recommend that you give each car a go, and if you are looking for a small car, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with this. That's the thing. I like it much more than I was expecting to. And, I love the design. I think the look of it, you can't beat it. They've done an amazing job on the design, I think. So, also what I love about it is it's a really good EV. So it's got the kind of features that I would expect from an electric car. Things like charging timers and all that sort of stuff. It charges fast as well. Really clear dash and infotainment system. The infotainment system is fantastic. It's better than some really expensive cars, this, But I suppose the biggest issue with this car really comes down to the price, doesn't it? Because the price is a lot, and it's like my wife said,
small cars for rich people.
Bit unfair, but she's kind of right, I suppose. The lowest spec is the Action trim, and that's about £21,000 after the government grant. Although that's a smaller battery than this one, actually, so the range is about 118 miles, 190 kilometres. The internal combustion engine Fiat 500 starts at 13,405, and now the specifications are not the same, of course. The electric one is better spec'd, but still that's quite a difference, isn't it? What I would say is if you have the money, then it is really well spec'd, I think. It's a really well spec'd car. It feels solid. It drives well. I mean, hey, it's up to you, isn't it? And it looks cool. It looks cool. Beautiful colours and everything. So, if you've got the money, I don't consider it a rip-off necessarily compared to other electric cars, but it is still expensive, of course. Thank you very much for watching. Please press subscribe, press the bell icon to be notified of other videos, and I'll catch you later. Bye for now.